Welcome to the channel. My name is Kevin Garrett, and I focus on delivering high-quality Mario Kart Tour content. This program is my resource masterclass. It's the culmination of months of observation and hours of work packaged together to deliver one of the finest instructional videos that you will come across for Mario Kart Tour. Now, this channel and this program is brought to you by the enormous support of the community at large. So if you enjoy high-level analysis of our favorite game, go ahead and click the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. Mario Kart Tour is a game of resources. Certainly your skill as a racer and even your luck in the pipes have an impact on how well you succeed in Mario Kart Tour. However, I would assert that your resource management is the most critical element towards your success in the game. The amount of time that you're willing to dedicate towards Mario Kart Tour, or even the amount of money that you're willing to invest into the game, define your progress. Your progress can be projected forward through the accumulation and utilization of your resources. I can demonstrate the impact of resources through a chart that I developed. I will put it in the space to the right here. In this chart, what I did is I tallied up all of the coins, rubies, and ticket value my account, which is free to play, entirely free to play. I haven't spent a penny on the game. The window of time that we're looking at is between the Snow Tour and the Los Angeles Tour. So 11 tours, a little bit over 5 months of time in the game. On the y-axis, we have coin value. Now, each coin counts for its own value, right? So it's just the raw total of coins that my account has generated. For rubies, I converted them to coins through the conversion factor, coins per ruby. Now, every time you use your rubies in the pipe, you're receiving items, normals, supers, and high-ends, and each pipe has different odds. So these will vary in terms of their coin equivalent value for each of those items. And what I did is I took the average of every single pipe. The data was provided by Tabor's Mario Kart Tour data website, and I found that the average CPR of all the pipes since the beginning of the game is 393 coins per ruby. And then the value of tickets is precisely the amount that you can exchange them for in your daily selects, which would be 12,000 coins for a high-end driver ticket, 10,000 coins for a high-end kart or glider ticket, and so on for the other types of rarities. The black line represents the cumulative capacity of resources that my account has generated. And as you can see on the chart, it started with 160,000 coin capacity. And after the 11 tours, it shot up all the way to greater than 1.5 million coins in just 11 tours, which is quite remarkable and requires maximization that we will get to further in this class. The colored lines below represent the individual breakdown of where those coins were generated from. So in the case of the gold line, that is just the value of the coins. For the red line, that is the coins per ruby for all the rubies that my account has generated. And then the purple line represents the amount of coins generated from the amount of high-end tickets and actually all kinds of tickets that my account has received in this time span. On my free-to-play account, you can see that the breakdown of where that value comes from is very evenly split. It's nearly exactly even for all of tickets, coins, and rubies. In fact, the only time when it was slightly unbalanced is when we had that influx of tickets right at the beginning of this window following the level 7 update, in which case the most significant portion of the value being generated on my account was coming from the tickets that we were receiving as in the way of free gifts. Now, what I did at the end here is very interesting. I decided to do a hypothetical and say, what if I became a Gold Pass subscriber for the last 3 tours? And what I found that did is it injected an enormous sum of resources into my account In fact, the output across just those 3 tours extra put the account capacity over 1.7 million, which is 16% greater output over the entire window span. And if I adjust that for the entire time period, exceeds that of 57% of the total output that a Gold Pass only player would be able to generate compared to that of a free-to-play player in this time span. The significant difference in value that a Gold Pass account receives isn't so much in the coins. Yes, the coin limit for your daily allowance is doubled. However, that is a minor amount of coins that's generated on the account nowadays. Most of the coins are equal across all player groups because the lion's share of them are received through the Today's Challenge or through the token shops. The major difference in resources is in the acquisition of tickets and rubies. As you can see, the lighter shaded lines represent that period of time in which I hypothetically would have joined Gold Pass. And both the light red line and the light purple line shoot up well beyond that of the free-to-play account that I generated. Naturally, if you are more than Gold Pass, if you are fully pay to win, in which you purchase commemorative items or ruby bundles, packs, things of that kind, then the amount of rubies that you're generating on your account is significantly more, and you can mentally adjust the chart for what the expectation level is for the capacity that you would be able to generate from that. The discrepancy in the amount of resources acquired increases with each tour among the different player groups. However, what we will see is that our whole gaming experience is tied to your account's current status. So just because you are not generating the same amount of resources as another player, or perhaps you're generating more resources than the other players, does not mean that your game experience will reflect that of the other people you're either chasing after or trying to stay ahead of. Quite honestly, I believe that keeping up with other players is a fallacy in the game. The goal of succeeding in Mario Kart Tour is about focusing on your own experience. One of the biggest pitfalls I see is that players will try to emulate the things that other players are doing when they're not in the same point in the game. Whether you're not investing the same amount of time or you're not investing the same amount of money in the game will greatly alter your situation compared to that of another player. My goal here isn't to tell you how to do what I do, it's to provide the information so that you can make your own decisions in order to be the best you that you can be. I never want to see anyone leave the game or get discouraged in the game because they feel like they can't keep up with other players. The player gradient is vast in the amount of resources that people are able to generate on their accounts. So there's no reason to try to keep up with Gold Pass players or pay-to-win players. I like to view Mario Kart Tour as an ecosystem, and I say it's a rich ecosystem. And that's because if you're a free-to-play player, let's say that you're in the forest, in the trees, the fields, mind you, you don't have to worry about what the pay-to-win players are doing up on the mountaintops. It doesn't affect your local environment. So you need to gear your account to things that will make you successful and find your niche in the game, as well as the things that make Gold Pass players thrive, as well as pay-to-win. So in this masterclass, there will be information that all player types can glean and be able to take your game to the next level. Free-to-play accounts have the most limitations because we stand to gain the least amount of resources there are, and that involves forming the most stringent strategies in order to save and maximize everything to chip and claw away at progress in the game. Pay-to-win players stand to gain by listening to this thought process and finding ways to apply it that suit your experience in the game, because part of my motivation for doing this, beyond the strong demand in the community, is that I wanted to challenge myself and see if there were ways that I could shut off little leaks in my game, in which case I might be utilizing resources to less than their maximum capability. And I believe that that applies to everyone out there. You never want to rest on your laurels, and you always want to be expanding and finding new ways to grow and improve yourself, and that's how you become a true master in any craft. So I'm going to set the scene for how the rest of this class will go. I'll be taking a look at a macro, broader view of things in the game, and individually I'll be taking a look at each component in terms of how to maximize and also optimize the things that you're doing. So we'll be taking both a macro and a micro approach to things. Well, we can start off by defining resources. Now, obviously, we all know the individual resources that there are, but what does a resource actually do? Well, it gets you something in the game, right? And getting something in the game helps to improve your account. And what are we trying to do with the improved state of our account? And that is to rank better, right? To improve our ranking over time through the ranked mode. Now, there are alternative modes of game that are out there. There are players who try to perform in the all-cup rankings, which is a very exciting task that some of the free-to-play community has even broken into. I hope to do it soon myself, as well as multiplayer, which is got a very strong competitive scene. A discussion about resources has to begin with ranked mode. It is the major driving force in the game, not only for the accumulation of goods on your account, but also performance and propelling your account forward. Ranked mode is set up so that we're paired with opponents of similar ability, in the words of Nintendo. Now, much attention in the community has been made into deciphering what elements are weighted the most when it comes to who you receive as opponents in ranked mode. I spent a considerable amount of time and energy on this task, and I've previously introduced to you guys my matrix on ranked mode, in which the score that you are able to generate is on the y-axis and your tier is on the x-axis. And your level of difficulty will reflect your position on the matrix. What's interesting to note is that the equilibrium line, as I would call it, which is the diagonal line that crosses the matrix, bears a striking resemblance to that of the resources, the entire capacity that my account has generated as a free-to-play account. The equilibrium line represents the point in which the game will pair you with opponents that directly correspond to the strength of your past scoring history in tandem with your capabilities in the tracks for the ranked cup. That is the strength of your loadouts, the items you have access to, the level that they're currently at, as well as their capping, and which tier they're in. If you have a bottom shelf cart or a middle shelf driver, you will not be experiencing the same ranked pairings as you would if you had a top shelf level 6 double cap driver. Now, what this line actually represents is that if you perform well in ranked mode in a given week, they will scale the difficulty of the following week so that you have an even more difficult time in tiering up. So very few players who are major investors into Mario Kart Tour are likely to be anywhere near the equilibrium line. And that is in large part why there aren't the same similarities seen among the players in the very top tiers as there are with the players who are coming along in the ranks, who are free to play or gold pass only in tier 40 or tier 50 or even tier 60. And I want to harken back to the chart I provided before with the resources, and just imagine how much more resources a pay to win account, or even just the quote unquote dolphin account, which is the gold pass player that will buy a pack every single tour. What that does is it produces a greater slope in the line of resources that you're generating tour over tour, and that sends you ever so greater into the more favorable area of the ranked opponent pairings. I want to point out to you that if your definition of a difficult ranked mode is the difficulty in order to come in first place, you are still tiering up when you come in second or third place, and you're still getting a large sum of rewards. This isn't the difficulty we're talking about. We're talking about the kind of difficulty that will send you down in tier. If you're at that equilibrium line and you put up a big win, you're likely to move down in tier the next time or struggle to stay at the same tier. So really, it's more of a staircase than it is a linear slope. And it's just the resources are reflected through a linear line. But the tier progress itself is more like a staircase. You tier up, and then you might hold the same tier, or you might tier down. You might go up and down slowly over time. That's the kind of difficulty that is not seen in the top tiers among the players who have enormous account capacity. The red area on this chart is not a very friendly place to be, and it's one that most players aren't likely to experience. It's mostly seen from Gold Pass players who don't renew their subscription and become once again free-to-play players, and that reduction in resources has very negative consequences on the account in the short term. I want to indicate that that's only in the short term, because everything adjusts. When you're in the red area, you will tier down perhaps multiple times, and then you will find your native tier, as I will call it, and then you can continue along the equilibrium line. Free-to-play players themselves may find themselves in the red area if through successive easy ranked pairings, or perhaps underbaking, if you will, the score significantly so that your progress in the tier doesn't match that of your scoring output. It will catch up to you. I want to give a more comprehensive definition of baking, because it's a term that I coined and it's been used prolifically in the community. And I'm very thankful that people have spread the word on that, because it has a significant impact on people's gameplays out there. But there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to baking. And that is, for example, you're not over baking your score if you only win your ranked mode by, like, say, 1,000 points. That's not a significant amount of points that is going to experience a backlash. Over baking your score would constitute scoring 5,000 points or perhaps greater than the next reward threshold in your rankings group. Once again, players often get their eyes too fixated, tunnel vision, mind you, on the prize, that first place. The baking, while it does have implications on the first place player in your next week's pairings, the truth of baking is that it actually has more significant implications in the downstream parts of your ranked group. For example, the equilibrium line is set in part due to your score from the past week, and that's a line that often aligns with the mark for tiering down the next week. So if you score 12,000 more points in 1 week than your next place opponent, you're essentially adjusting the line that much greater for yourself, that you need to either maintain your tier or tier up in the successive week. And that constitutes the proper definition of an overbake. Conversely, an underbake is when you intentionally score less than your full capability in order to keep that line as low as possible and still receive the same reward that you would if you played at a full capability. The concept of baking is not some secret cheat code that you can use. The reality of baking is that it better allows you to control the reward you get in the week that you want it. That level of control gives you the power to better craft your strategy over the long haul. But I do want to bring up and put an emphasis on, once you do move in for that desired reward at the point when you do, it has an equal and opposite reaction as you move forward. You're going to have to put up a big score eventually. And when you do, it's going to draw you back towards the equilibrium line of what your account is possible of generating based on its resources. We have three main types of resources: coins, rubies, and tickets. I'll save the tickets for last, since that's a unique category. For starters, I'll take a macro look at coins and rubies. And the first concept I want to introduce in this section is use your coins and save your rubies. There are several reasons for this. Based on what we were just discussing with ranked mode, coins give you the finest level of control in terms of what you're generating your account and when it's being done. That when is critical. Moves done after your ranked group has been generated can't be used against you in terms of the strength of your capabilities in terms of scoring for the tracks in play. The offerings in the tier shop have been increasingly better over time. I've been able to pick up items like the off-roader and the dry Bowser umbrella, both top 10 items over a significantly long stretch of the game's lifespan, weren't previously accessible to my account until I exchanged for them in the tier shop. And of course, the more prolific application of your coins is through maxing out slots in your daily selects in order to receive tickets, especially that of the high-end variety. And the acquisition of those high-end tickets produces greater value on your account that you can use to propel your progress even further. Let's take a deeper dive into coins. In fact, how to maximize your coin output. Now granted, all accounts will have access. If you play every day of the tour, you will have access to the token shop coins, the coins that you receive in today's challenge, gift coins through social media promotions or team rallies, things of that nature. The kind of coin maximization that I'm talking about is the kind that is in your control as the player, and that is performing your coin limit break every day. The coin limit break is when you go beyond the limit of what Nintendo sets as the maximum number of coins that we can receive in a day. For free-to-play players, that is 300 through racing on the tracks, and for Gold Pass players, that's 600 coins. So what you want to do is go up to the number 299 coins by adding them up in your total, or 599 coins for Gold Pass, and then going into your track with the greatest coin output and performing an optimal run on that to earn an additional 100 plus coins on top of the limit that they provide you with. So myself, as a free-to-play player, my ideal target is to receive over 400 coins daily from racing in the game. The other more significant way to generate even more coins on your account is to abuse a glitch that our member Dave Falto discovered. On Coins of Plenty Day, by using multiplayer, you can get 3 additional sets of 100 coins by re-lobbying before your set cup is set to go off. I will demonstrate that tactic for you right now. The current cup that's going on in multiplayer right now is the Rosalina Cup. So what you would want to do is, if you had the Donkey Kong Cup, which is positioned to the right of the Rosalina Cup in the image capture to the right here, you would want to collect 100 coins prior to your first race of the Donkey Kong Cup. So what you would do is, for me, I have to click on standard races, but you could do this in gold races as well. And what you want to do is you want to collect coins here. So you saw I only got 1, which isn't good. Ideally, if you're trying to do this on a time limit, you want to try to get 3 or 4 coins per re-lobby. So basically, you just go in, and once they pair you with a group, you get out, and then you start collecting coins once again. So I'm only receiving 1 coin per lobby attempt at the moment. And I'm not going to go all the way to 100, since that is not an efficient use of my time here. But once you get to 100, you don't want to complete any races until the Cup of your Coins of Plenty event is going on. So let's say hypothetically we're already to 100 coins right now. You wouldn't want to do any races. You would just hang out and wait for the Donkey Kong Cup. And as soon as they pair you with someone, with a group for Choco Mountain RT, you would go in and complete that race. Okay? And once you're done completing that race, what you would find is that your number wouldn't be at 100 anymore. It's reset to 0. So you're getting an additional 100 coins per race. You could do that 3 times, once for each track. And then once you've completed the entire cup for Coins of Plenty, you can go back for a 4th set of 100 coins in multiplayer. I'll provide a list of steps in the space to the right, just so you feel confident in trying it for yourself. Now, you might say that you get fewer coins in a race in multiplayer since it's always hectic crazy things are going on, and I agree to that. So the maximum output that you can get likely isn't going to be 300 additional coins, but somewhere between 200 and 300 extra coins. I've had runs as good as 92 track coins that I've received. So that means that I received 492 coins for that track. It is certainly a lot of effort to put in order to gain a little bit of extra coins. But those coins do go a long way. If you recall, in the Yoshi Tour, we had Coins Aplenty event going on every single day of the tour. And in that tour, I generated over 3,000 extra coins of value on my account. And that's nothing to snuff at. That's the value of a free super by the end of the tour. And if you're able to do that tour in and tour out, to go back to my introduction in this masterclass, you will know that it will further the gap between you and other players of your kind. And that has a very positive impact on your account in the long term in expediting the kind of progress that you would like to see. You want to optimize your coins for using them on items that will get slots and your daily selects maxed out. Ideally, the normal premium items and the super glider slot. Those are the quickest pathways to receive tickets in your daily selects, as well as maxing out a high-end item that will allow that rarity class to be eligible for tickets in your account. And otherwise, you want to use them on the tier shop when you're eligible to get items on your account that you didn't previously have. Standard high-ends are a great example of that. I had already stated the off-roader and the Dry Bowser umbrella. The Silver Starchute was recently offered. That was a new item for many of you out there. It's also useful for adding a level onto items that you would otherwise use a ticket for, so thus you can save a ticket for market value price. Now, when it comes to purchasing tickets in the tier shop, I only opt to go in for the driver variety, and that's due to the inherent value of each of the item kinds. Drivers possess double the bonus points boost weight than that of carts and gliders. So if you think about things in terms of relationship to their market value, a 15,000 coin driver ticket is only 50% more expensive than a 10,000 coin cart or glider ticket of the high-end variety in the daily selects, and that's generating 100% additional bonus points. So anytime you have a high-end driver ticket in your tier shop, if you have the coins available to purchase it, you don't want to pass up on that. The ones that you do want to consider passing up on, and I would put strongly at that, are the cart and glider varieties. Now, the case to be made for purchasing a high-end glider ticket in the tier shop is due to the rarity of their appearance in the daily selects. But otherwise, I would never recommend purchasing a 13,000 coin cart or glider ticket because it's leaking value out of your account. A better strategy would be taking greater care of what you're investing those tickets into rather than purchasing more of them at a lower value return rate. Coins can very simply be summed up as either gearing up to max out your daily selects or always pivoting in order to receive a ticket. If you take a look at my coin usage rate in the last 11 tours, it's over 91%. And some tours I even went as great as over 150% of the coins I generated, and that's because I had saved onto a bunch in order for the anticipation of receiving high-end tickets. So that's something that you want to gear your playing towards at all times. Now, where does that leave rubies? A lot of pay-to-win players will pawn pipes merely because they need levels on the featured items in that pipe, whether they be drivers, carts, or gliders. And for that kind of player, I don't want to suggest that pulling on the pipe is a bad move for them. But what is a bad move is replicating that if you are a gold pass only player or a free-to-play player, because that experience is not reflected in your own. The amount of rubies that you're able to accumulate as a gold pass only, and particularly as a free-to-play only player, is significantly lower than that of the top players in the game. And what this means is that you need to guard that resource even more carefully, because rubies provide you with access to exclusive items that will have a direct impact on your performance in ranked modes. Failure to save up enough rubies will compromise your ability in obtaining those items, and failure to obtain those items will stall your progress in the game over the long haul. If you've ever seen one of my should you pull segments in any of my videos, you would know that I leave out a very particular consideration that most of you go into a pipe for, and that is, should you pull for ranked mode? And I vehemently believe that you should not pull for ranked mode, and I have some fantastic data here to support and prove that point. Since the start of the year 2021, I've only pulled on 5 pipes, which is less than 10% of all the pipes that have been made available. It's 9% of the total pipes that I've pulled on. Now, most players out there have pulled on a significantly greater number of pipes. And I assure you that my ranked progress, mind you, this is a free-to-play account, so the progress may look different than your Gold Pass account or your pay-to-win account. But my progress has been steady and consistent, with no signs of slowing down whether I was pulling or not. I was in tier 41 at the end of last year, and I ended on a positive note. I had a victory, so I started the year 2021 in tier 42, and in 7 months I've gone up 9 tiers as a free-to-play player. In this chart you can see my ranked progress in the black line, superimposed onto the pipes that have been made available and which ones specifically I pulled on, just to show that ranked progress has nothing to do with pipe pulls. Now, I do want to draw emphasis that the tier progress is not to scale according to the tour, since the x-axis represents all the pipe offerings that we've had, and every single tour has had either 3 or 4 pipes available. So there are certainly gaps that make it look like I was stagnated for longer than I actually was. My goal in developing this chart is to show how my pipe pulls influenced or didn't influence my ranked performance. The charts of most players would look like a sea of red here. And as you can see, I still had steady progress in ranked mode, despite pulling significantly less than most other players. One of the most interesting stats that one can take away from looking at this chart is that I've spent a total on the year of 1,080 rubies so far to this point, and I've gained 9 tiers. So that means that I've spent 120 rubies per tier gained. This number shows the disconnect between the need to constantly spend your rubies and perform well in ranked mode. The truth is that ranked performance is based on the utilization of your coins and tickets and not the rubies. You just want to use the rubies to selectively go in on items that you are willing to spend your tickets on. And you have to be self-aware in moments like this. You have to know what your ticket capabilities are, how many you have in your inventory, how many you can expect to see and exchange for in your shops on a tourly basis, and then adjust what you're pulling for in the pipes based on what you can actually invest in. You don't want to be collecting things on your accounts just for the sake of the collection. And this is one of the biggest pitfalls I see among the player base that causes stagnation in one's progress. Having items collecting dust in your inventory has 2 negative consequences. One is that it provides you with more difficult ranked groups when that is the sole item in the top shelf on your account and you're unable to invest tickets into it. There's an extremely prevalent fallacy that exists in the community that you need to have a top shelf item in order to perform well in ranked mode. Now, certainly it's true that it's very difficult to win a ranked group without a top shelf item. However, lacking that item won't do you as much detriment as if you have that item but only at level 1 and incapable of investing tickets into it to match the difficulty curve that Nintendo is providing you in your ranked group. The other serious consequence is that it jeopardizes your ability to go into a future pipe and secure an item for a guarantee that may be in a spotlight. You may need a full 450 rubies in order to guarantee that item. And perhaps if it's a 50 pipe, you might say, well, that's half the cost to go in. If it doesn't have a spotlight, The ceiling for how many rubies that you may be required in order to secure the item that you want could be extraordinary. Let's just say hypothetically, there's a new driver in a 3 high-end 50 pipe without a spotlight, and I only want that one driver that I don't have. I only have a 95% chance of obtaining that once I have over 1,200 rubies. Many players fell into this trap in the Lucky 7 pipe in order to obtain Nabbit. Some players had to go as deep as 700, 800, 900 rubies. There were some members here, unfortunately, that spent that many rubies and still didn't obtain the Nabbit. It can happen to you. You can be one of the 5%, and I don't want to see that happen to anyone. I want everyone to be fully capable of obtaining what they need to in order to succeed in the game. And that requires a lot of discipline, and it's discipline that I hope this information is providing incentive for you to act upon. If you're an individual that has difficulty laying off of a pipe, if you feel like you're being baited too frequently to pull for something, if you feel like you need it for ranked mode or it looks really cool, what I would recommend doing is make a list of, a short list, mind you, of things that if they were brought to the game, you must pull for them. It's the all-time things that you want to see come in. Build up a stash of rubies for when that thing comes to the game. Now let's say you obtain that stash and the item still hasn't come to play. Let's say 450 rubies, or the optimal number is 675, because that is the number that you can fully drain a 50 pipe and still guarantee the 450 to drain out a 100 pipe. Alternatively, if you have average luck going into a 100 pipe, you might get the item that you want in 5-10 pulls, in which case you still have 450 rubies in the bank moving forward into the next tour. Once you're in that safe zone, you can go for bait banners more often. A good characterization for if something is bait is that if you didn't know you want it before you saw it, then that is bait. And Nintendo is doing its job in triggering your reflex for pulling for it. Players often ask me, why do I save so many rubies? And most probably think it's just because I'm saving for an anniversary or for a value. And the truth is, I honestly think that anniversary pipes are a little bit overrated because the focus on the value in those pipes is in the rear view mirror. And honestly, I believe in paying the premium in order to obtain new items that can power your account forward. Remember, when I say that I go into a pipe, it's because I'm fully committed to investing into those items. You all remember the Ramby Runner. That was the last time that I went into a 100 pipe for something I wanted. It's currently level 6 and triple capped, and it's an item that's powered me beyond tier 50. If you can't fully commit to investing into an item in the long term, such as that, I would really second guess going into the pipe. It's a sign that pulling on that pipe will not generate the kind of value for your account that you're expecting. I'll bring up my ranked performance chart to segue into investing your tickets. Some folks out there don't believe that you can invest into your favorite characters and still succeed. I'm here to tell you that yes, you can. It's about putting all the information that I have to provide to you together. I've taken a systematic, scientific approach and done just that. So for the characters of the Donkey Kong family, none of them have elite special skills of the high-end variety. We only have triple bananas twice actually for Dixie Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. And we have banana barrels, which has the potential for a very high scoring run. I'm going to break this down one piece at a time and then put it back together like a jigsaw puzzle. There are actually some very uniquely competitive things that my account can boast that no one else's account can boast on a similar standing. One thing I can say about my account is that I have never tiered down in consecutive weeks, not once. I've tiered down and then I've stayed the same tier. The other thing is that I've never placed below 10th in ranked mode. The reason for these two stats is the same reason how I envisioned this niche in the first place before I got started. And that is, if I'm investing into lower ceiling characters without optimal skills, what that does is it produces a lower maximum scoring potential. A lot of you may think that that's bad news. However, the truth to success in ranked mode, in tiering up and having consistent progress, is to shrink the gap between your maximum and your minimum scoring potential. Many times I've seen free-to-play players or Gold Pass only players try to emulate the strategies of pay-to-win players, in which case they'll go all in on a coin box driver and have an enormous scoring potential. And what ends up happening is that if you're not able to reproduce scores in that general range, then you're going to be hit even harder by the ranked algorithm in subsequent weeks. So what often ends up happening actually is players will try to emulate that style, and then they'll experience a really difficult ranked group and cry about how unfair it is. The truth is, while I have had unfair pairings for forward mobility, I haven't had nearly the negative experiences as other players because my scoring range potential is that much narrower than other players. Don't misconstrue my words into thinking that I am suggesting that lower value skills on a driver are better than the top skills in the game, such as coin box or boomerang. That is not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to show you is that every choice that you make in the game has a consequence, and you have to be prepared for those consequences before you set things into motion. And when you're able to do that, you can better adjust to the environment that you're exposed to. If you're in the very top tiers of the game, you need those powerful drivers in order to maintain your edge over the competition. However, I often describe ranked mode as a rat race. And in order to exemplify this, I just want to point out how the difference in rewards for winning ranked mode are no different at tier 70 than they are at tier 60. And the difference between tier 60 and tier 50 ranked mode rewards is only one set of tickets down the board. Otherwise, the rubies are the same and the coins are the same. Therefore, I view ranked mode in terms of the frames of the reward structure. So I view a player between tier 60 and tier 70 as a top tier player. I would consider myself in the second tier of player, just on the basis of the kind of rewards that my account has access to when I perform in ranked mode. This is also the cause of burnout for a lot of players, and that is you perform in ranked mode to get more rewards. And the more rewards you get, the more items you can gain access to. And with those new items, you can invest tickets into them in order to perform in ranked mode and win more rewards, thus repeating the cycle. The truth is, the higher you move up in tier, the lower return on investment you get on all of the moves that you make. When I first started the channel, I provided an example cost-benefit analysis in which I showed it was optimal for me to spend super tickets in order to move up placement in my ranked group that week because I was gaining more rewards in terms of raw coin value than I was spending. That's not possible much beyond that point. As soon as you have to spend a single high-end ticket, it's greater than the CPR value of the difference in rubies between first place and second place. Therefore, it's really up to the individual in terms of how much you want to invest to maintain a placement that satisfies you within the game. My own personal goal of eventually reaching the top tier in terms of reward placement is within reach for me with the amount of resources that I've accumulated on my account. And it's simply a matter of time until they bring out something that I want to pull on and invest in, a new member of the Kong family, mind you, and then my progress is assured in order to reaching that goal. For you, it's likely to be a different set of reasoning, and perhaps even if it is the same set of reasoning, it may be a completely different set of characters. What I want to do is show some of the planning of my strategy to really exemplify how it's been able to be successful. What I've done here is I've adapted a stat that's in the BAM, Gerbs, and Reichenmeyer spreadsheet. They have a metric in which each driver has a percentage overlap with all level 6 coin box drivers on non-city tracks. What I'm doing here is comparing the overlap value of each of the high-end Kongs to one another. The reasoning for this is because they are essentially my coin box driver or in other words, my maximum scoring potential driver on the account. I looked at the metric in 3 ways. I looked at it on all the courses that they have access to, on the non-city tracks, and perhaps the most effective metric for myself is also including non-city tracks with ranked city tracks, because if you invest for something in ranked mode, it will produce value for your account. So I view ranked city tracks as being just as valuable as non-city tracks. What we see is that they have very minimal overlap between the 3 of them. In the non-city tracks, they have 52 between the 3 of them. And out of those 52 courses, there's only overlap on 10 tracks collectively, which is 19%. That's a very low number, and one that produces a lot of wealth for your account in terms of diversity of driver. In comparison, I put together a list of the overlap for all of the non-city courses for level 6 coin box drivers. If these are the drivers that you invest into, you'll see that they have very significant overlap between all of them. In particular, all but 3 have greater than 50% overlap, and many of them have 70% overlap or greater. In the case of Pauline Party Time, she has a 92% coin box overlap on non-city tracks, and that is significant. Let's take a deeper dive into how that overlap actually plays out. What I've done here is that I recognize that the reason why the overlap is so low between the 3 high-end Kongs is because there are only 3 of them. So naturally they're going to have fewer overlap. So what I've done is I've prepared a selection of 3 coin boxers to compare and contrast the differences between their overlap and that of the high-end Kongs. The first one I did is I just took a look at the 3 that had less than 50% coin box overlap with each other, and I said, well, what if we just take out these 3? What kind of overlap are we looking at there? That should be optimal, right? And in fact, out of the 45 tracks that they possess, they only overlap on 2 of them. That is a grand total of 4% overlap. So if you really wanted to optimize your coin box strategy in terms of wasting the fewest amount of tickets, this would be your way to go. In truth, overlap is not the worst thing in the world. The higher up in tier that you are, the more overlap that you will have to accrue in order to have that selective niche on each track. Each coin boxer has access to one or a handful of tracks that they can call their own. And if you don't have the coin boxer on that track and you're in the top level of competition, you are greatly disadvantaged in that regard. The next triplet that I looked at were the 3 with the highest overlap, right? Pauline Party Time gets such a bad rap because she has so few exclusive tracks that she can call her own out of all the coin box drivers. So looking at the top 3 overlap, we have Pauline Party Time, we have Pink Gold Peach, and King Bob-omb Gold. And actually what I found was that they have 30% overlap. That's 14 out of 47 tracks. And it varies between the driver, Pauline Party Time having the most out of this grouping. And I got curious. I was thinking to myself, is this the most substantial overlap that the population of coin boxers can produce? So I said, what's the most likely thing that players are to do who just loosely follow these different rankings, spreadsheets, and listings that are out there and blindly following them without seeing what it's producing in their own game? So let's take a look at the top 3 ranked overall drivers who are coin boxers, and that is King Bob-omb Gold, Dry Bones Gold, and Pink Gold Peach. What we see is there's actually a greater magnitude of overlap between the top 3 overall ranked coin box drivers than the top 3 with the most overlap overall. While that does ultimately produce a marginally lower percentage overlap since they do have access to more tracks overall, it just goes to highlight that however you formulate your strategy, you want to be looking at the very specific details in terms of what your resources are doing for those items and how that's propelling your account forward. Now let's talk about the tickets themselves. In my daily selects, I have all of my normal premium items maxed out. That is Baby Luigi, the Pipe Buggy, and the Piranha Plant Parafoil. And I have all of the super gliders the regular kind maxed out. So that is the flower glider, the peach parasol, the shell parachute, and the bob-on parafoil. So I'll show you a schematic of what that looks like in terms of the different rarity classes. And alongside of that, I have a single high-end maxed out that's available in the daily selects. I have the swooper at level 7, and that's what provides the eligibility for high-end tickets on my daily selects. In this next schematic, I show the frequency for receiving a ticket in the various slots of the daily selects themselves. The green slot indicates that it is readily accessible for tickets. The yellow slot indicates that it's infrequent. The orange tiles signify that it's possible to receive tickets there, although extremely unlikely, and the red tiles indicate the impossibility of receiving a ticket in those slots. I first started receiving tickets in my shop in the Sydney tour, and then in the subsequent tour, the Bowser vs. Donkey Kong tour, I became eligible to receive high-end tickets when I maxed out the swooper. Provided in the space to the right are the stats for the ticket classes and rarities that I have seen, the frequency of each of them. As you can see, greater than 50% of the tickets have been of the normal variety, and greater than 50% of the tickets have been for the driver class. Since maxing out my first daily select high-end, I have received 13 high-end tickets to this day, and that's over the span of 7.5 tours. So that's roughly a rate of a little bit less than 2 high-end tickets per tour. However, I have seen that they come in bunches, and I go on these long droughts. So I have gone 20 days on multiple occasions without seeing a single high-end ticket, and then I may receive 4 high-end tickets in the span of like 6 or 7 days. I have my daily selects set up for the optimal arrangement for a free-to-play player, because with that average of 2 high-end tickets per tour, let's say that's an average of 22,000 coins that I spend on high-end tickets for each tour. And I already showed you guys that I average 45,000 coins per tour. So that is roughly half of my budget is reserved to that one slot. And there are often situations in which I'll need to purchase an item in the tier shop, as well as tickets of other varieties in order to compete in ranked mode to hold the same tier or to tier up. At most, a free-to-play player would want to max out the normal glider slot next. That would provide an additional tile of permanent ticket access. However, that's a long and time-consuming process. For minimal gain, since the value of normals is practically non-existent anymore. And with that, I will segue into the final topic, which is my inventory at large, in which I will share with you the results of my tier 1 groupings from the BAM and JERB spreadsheet for my drivers, carts, and gliders. I have been telling you this for months now, but essentially Mario Kart Tour has become a high-end game. If you're not investing into high-ends, you're not able to compete in the higher tiers. The obsolescence of Nintendo in weeding out the value of old drivers has left so many things in the dust, and the advancement to level 7 has made it so that the impact of the point capping that you provide on drivers, which is when, let's say if you take a high-end driver to a second cap, 1,190 is the limit there, or even a third cap is 1,400. The amount of bonus points boost per action that you're able to generate far and away exceeds that of the maximum potential of a level 7 triple capped normal or super driver. So much so that a middle of the road ranked skill on a high end, let's say if you take it to level 7 and triple cap it to 1,400 base points, will outperform a run from a level 7 triple capped super with an optimal boombox run, in which case you would need to get greater than 42 coins from your boomboxes in order to equalize the run of your high-end selection in that track. And as I show you guys my tier 1 drivers list in the BAM and JERB spreadsheet, I'm reminded of this concept once again And the last time I shared this with you, Donkey Kong was in my tier 1 drivers as a super. However, I will flip and show you where Donkey Kong is at the moment. He's ranked 95th, and this was shocking to me since I do use Donkey Kong every tour. He's been on Rock Mountain. He's been a major part of my total points scoring in each of the last few tours. As you can see, he's even ranked below Diddy Kong, who unfortunately has not been in ranked mode for 62 weeks at this point and hasn't received a new track buff in 82 weeks. I discussed these findings with Rankenmeyer from the group of researchers who make this spreadsheet. And what we discovered is that Giant Banana is actually shortchanged a bit in terms of its action count potential when it comes to scoring, so that it actually tabulates Donkey Kong's score as being lower than that of Funky Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., both of which share overlap with the super version of Donkey Kong. And I had intentionally brought those two high-end drivers to level 6 and double cap because I wanted to keep the niche for Donkey Kong available on those tracks, since an optimal Giant Banana Frenzy run would still outscore that of the high-ends. And eventually I have known the realization that those two high-ends, their value will exceed that of the Super Donkey Kong, but this is a point in which he should, and actually does in practice, outperform that of his high-end counterparts, but it's not counted as such in the spreadsheet. And in order to reflect that, I would have to manually change the data tabs, and that would adjust the scoring across the board in the spreadsheet, so that's not recommended. Interestingly, Justin observed the opposite, where in fact the spreadsheet counted Bowser Jr. the Super as level 6 double capped being more valuable than King Boo Gold as a level 4 and single capped. And this is on the track for Vanilla Lake 1T, which was in ranked mode, when in fact, since Vanilla Lake is such a short circuit, the amount of actions that King Boo Gold is able to perform greatly exceeds that of what a conventional skill driver would be able to perform on other tracks, as such that it fails to take into account that King Boo Gold is the superior option on that track. So this is something that you guys should be aware of. Be careful, extremely careful, if you are adjusting the data tabs, because that will throw your results off everywhere else. This is just something that I wanted to raise awareness of, since there are so many players out there who follow these spreadsheets verbatim, and it's very important to do your own research and legwork in addition to putting together these different resources in informing your gameplay, because the resources themselves are remarkable. What they're able to accomplish, what Bam, Jerbs, and Rankenmeyer have done, as well as Tabor, they are incredible tools to use and improve your quality of play. Now, if you're like me, you know your strategy like the back of your hand. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of what my drivers are performing me on what tracks. However, the most value I get from the Bam and Jerb spreadsheet is the value of unowned or lower level things that might be in a blind spot for you. In particular, Shy Guy Gold was one of those, in which I found that he was a tremendous support for my inventory overall. As you can see, he is my 4th ranked driver here. And as such, I take notice of Birdo Black being my top unowned driver. That would be the driver that would provide me with the greatest amount of track coverage. And what a perfect time for Nintendo to have included Birdo Black into the standard high-end pool for drivers. Next, we take a look at carts, and it's no surprise that the Rambi Runner is far and away my #1 cart in the game, followed by the Red Bee Dasher, which has been benefited by receiving it in multiple all-clear pipes, as well as being in the token shop. Similar to Birdo Black, I see that the Wild Pink, recently introduced to the standard high-end pool for carts, is my top unowned cart. So now this is a chance for every time I go into the all-clear pipe or today's challenge pipe, or any pipe that I use my rubies on, I can obtain that cart. So that is also perfect timing for my account In my advanced theory video, I had discussed how the value of karts exceeds that of the value of gliders beyond level 4, and that's due to the bonus points multiplier that accrues greater magnitudes as you level it up. And once your glider is at level 4, you're already maxed out in terms of combo points earned for almost all situations. Therefore, I angle my kart tickets towards going very heavy into a select group of karts which will share a very low amount of overlap instead of sharing the wealth among them, in which case there's going to be a larger degree of overlap and a lesser extent of realization of the value of those karts, as they're not able to produce the same kind of bonus points from the multiplier as they would if they are fully maxed out. And lastly, we take a look at my gliders, which is the slimmest part of my inventory. I still am below 50 gliders total on my account, but it has been gradually expanding. And as you can see here, for the gliders, I do share the wealth more. The Strawberry Donut has such extensive coverage. It is already my #1 glider ranked here on Bam and Gerbs over the Swooper, which is level 7. The best strategy with gliders is you want more of them, and you want to take them to a level in which you'll be able to fully realize the combo points, and then share those resources across the board within your inventory so that you can have that coverage on a larger number of tracks. And with that, we reach the conclusion of the resource masterclass. I'm so glad you all made it to the finish. This quality content is brought to you through the support that you share with the channel. As such, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. I would love to share more extremely in-depth looks at Mario Kart Tour with all of you, and I am relying on your support in order to do so. So thank you very much. Take care and have a wonderful day. So long.